Everybody knows the big ones from the 80s: Raiders of the Lost Ark, Ghostbusters, The Terminator. The list is pretty much endless. But there's another side to 80s movies, the ones that flew under the radar, not because they're bad, but because they're different, a little weird, a little off-center, the kind of movies that didn't get the love they deserved at the time, but are absolutely worth digging up now. Let's get into a few of those. This movie is about as straightforward as it gets, even by 80s action standards. Terrorists are doing bad things, so some highly trained guys get sent in to stop them. Lots of shooting, stuff explodes, then the mission ends. Roll credits. It sounds basic, but that's kind of the charm. It's fast, it's packed with action, and it's all wrapped up in a tight 88 minutes. The movie has this weird, almost surreal tone, like it's so matter-of-fact that it almost feels like a deadpan comedy, but not quite. The opening sequence pulls you in right away, and while it's mostly non-stop action, the movie does touch on some surprisingly serious stuff, like terrorism and anti-Semitism, even at the highest levels of government. Pretty wild how much of that still feels relevant today. Ken Wall and Steve James lead the cast, and honestly, them taking down bad guys together is reason enough to watch it. So why haven't more people heard of The Soldier? Well, it got buried. Embassy Pictures had a management shakeup. The new guys, Norman Lear and Jerry Perenchio, hated the old regime's movies. They barely promoted anything they didn't greenlight themselves. Ironically, the movies they did push all flopped at the box office. The Soldier deserved better. It's a tight, solid action flick that holds up way better than you'd expect. Next is Opium and the Kung Fu Master from 1984. And if you're into martial arts movies, this one's for you. On the surface, it's a pretty typical setup. Rival martial arts schools clashing, but then it flips the script. The real villain isn't another fighter. It's a guy trying to get the whole town hooked on opium. So yeah, it's basically an anti-drug movie, but with tons of martial arts action and even a little comedy thrown in. It keeps the pace moving, and the fight scenes are really well done. You just have to be on board with that older 80s kung fu movie vibe. If you are, there's a lot to love here. It's one of those movies that doesn't get mentioned enough when people talk about the best martial arts films from the 80s, but it definitely should. This one's a World War I movie, but it's not all grim and hopeless like a lot of war films. It manages to show the harsh realities of the war without completely dragging you down. It focuses on the Australian Lighthorse Regiment and their role in the Battle of Beersheba. It's old-school filmmaking, very little CGI, a lot of real stunts, real extras, and because of that, when the big moments happen, they hit way harder. You really feel like you're watching it unfold for real. It balances honesty about the brutality of war with moments of heroism and even a little spectacle. It's not flashy or over the top, just a really solid, well-made war movie that deserves more attention than it usually gets. If you don't know, the Tora-san series is massive, 50 movies deep. And yeah, they mostly follow the same setup. Tora-san travels around Japan, meets a woman, almost finds love, but usually ends up alone and heading back to his family by the end. Out of all of them, Tropical Fever is considered one of the best. It's still got the usual mix, a little sad, a little funny. But this one hits different because it focuses a lot on Lily, one of the few women who keeps popping up in Tora's life. She's probably the closest he ever gets to a real long-term relationship. At the end of the day, the Tora-san movies aren't just about finding love. They're about realizing there's more to life than chasing it. Tropical Fever nails that theme better than most of the series. This one is a Jackie Chan movie a lot of people don't talk about. Jackie starred in it and directed it. And yeah, there's the usual action you'd expect from him, but this one's also got a gangster movie vibe mixed with comedy. It's a weird blend that shouldn't really work, but somehow it does. It's definitely not as famous as a lot of Jackie's other 80s movies, but it's worth checking out. The story's a little all over the place, but it pulls it together better than people give it credit for. At 126 minutes, it covers a lot of ground, and honestly, if you've burned through all of Jackie Chan's classic martial arts flicks and want something different, Miracles is a solid breath of fresh air. This movie's a full-on mess, but in the best way. It starts with a music video that doesn't even connect to the plot. Then the story kicks in. Aliens show up on Earth and clash with a gang of rebellious teens in a small town. And just when you think you're getting a grip on it, the movie throws a ton of random side characters and extra subplots at you. It's chaotic, like aggressively 1980s chaotic. Also, it's a musical, because of course it is. It's one of those movies you laugh with, because it's clearly trying to be funny, but also laugh at because it's just so over the top. There's not much else out there like it, and that's part of the reason it's kind of great. This isn't your typical disturbing documentary, it's on a whole different level. The film follows Kenzo Okuzaki, a former Japanese soldier who's still haunted by what he saw and did in World War II. He's made it his personal mission to expose the atrocities that happened, and he's not exactly subtle about it. He'll knock on doors, confront people, get in their faces, whatever it takes to get the truth. There's not a lot of graphic imagery here, but it doesn't need it. Watching Okuzaki dragging up the darkest parts of Japan's history is more uncomfortable than any horror movie. You're basically seeing a man who never escaped the war, still fighting battles nobody else wants to talk about. It's heavy stuff, but it's also one of the most fascinating documentaries ever made. Once you start watching, it's hard to look away. Good luck explaining this one to anyone who hasn't seen it. It's set in this giant floating city, full of godlike beings who basically pass the time by messing with time. They sculpt it, shape it, do weird things with it. There's almost no dialogue, just strange, hypnotic visuals and this haunting soundtrack. The whole thing was made by Piotr Kamler, and he pretty much did it all by himself. Built the sets, made the models, did the stop-motion animation, and it took him 5 years. The film got funding from the French Ministry of Culture, and the budget was around 3 million francs, about $500,000 back then, which was massive for an independent animated movie. It premiered at Cannes in 1982, but getting it distributed was a nightmare. It was too experimental for animation festivals and too animated for art house theaters. Barely anyone outside of Europe got to see it at the time. Still, Chronopolis built up a cult following later, especially with avant-garde film fans. Directors like Chris Marker and Terry Gilliam have praised it for being one of the only films that really treats time as something physical, something you can see and touch. This one was a huge deal in Japan, but kind of flew under the radar everywhere else. The story follows 4 sisters from an upper-class family in Osaka during the late 1930s, right as modernization and war are starting to close in. It tracks their lives over the course of a year, one sister for each season. The director Kon Ichikawa was already famous for adapting Japanese literary classics, and he went all out on this one. Shot on real locations in Kyoto and Kobe, no studio sets, with an insane focus on capturing the seasons exactly how they're described in the original novel. Cherry blossoms, snow, rain, the visuals here are actually amazing. The production budget was huge for the time, about 800 million yen, or around $3.5 million. It was selected for competition at Cannes in 1983 and got glowing reviews at home, but it wasn't a massive box office hit. Outside Japan, it mostly made the rounds at film festivals. But over time, the Makioka Sisters became one of Ichikawa's late-career masterpieces. Martin Scorsese has even praised it for how perfectly it uses the seasons to frame the story, calling it one of the most beautiful Japanese films ever made. If you know martial arts movies, you know Sammo Hung. He's been around forever. Actor, director, fight choreographer, and Pedicab Driver is easily one of the best things he ever did. Set in the 1930s Macau, the story follows a group of rickshaw pullers trying to survive, dealing with poverty, love, and gang violence. It sounds pretty basic, but the movie jumps between genres. It's part romantic comedy, part drama, part straight-up action movie. And somehow, it all works. Sammo Hung directed it and starred in it, and he handled the fight choreography himself. The big highlight is this one-on-one fight between Hung and Lau Kar-leung, a Shaw Brothers legend. They filmed it in long takes with barely any cuts, no wire work, no camera tricks, just pure hand-to-hand combat, real techniques, real hits. It's still one of the best martial arts fights ever put on screen. It won Best Action Choreography at the Hong Kong Film Awards, and over time, it became a cult classic. Quentin Tarantino's even called it one of his favorite martial arts films, especially for how real and emotional the fights feel. The only problem? For years, it was super hard to find outside Asia because of rights issues. It wasn't until the 2000s that it finally got a proper DVD release and started getting the recognition it deserved.